Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10 Minute Torah, continuing in Beit, and he went is the translation. Let's look a little bit further into the questions that we mentioned yesterday. The first question that I left you with is this: is there some character difference between the father and the son that enables Yaakov to prevail where Yitzhak was not even allowed to go? One generation may hit a stumbling block, may come up against an end resolve that is not desirable. It would then be up to the following generation to correct that. Sometimes we find ourselves walking in the same circular path as our ancestors, facing the same tests, the same trials, the same situations. Eventually, there is a generation that will rise up and overcome, ending that process and allowing then the future generations to go further. Let's continue with these questions. There are at least three more. Secondly, is the reason that Yaakov was sent to Haran to establish the fact that the bride is to be found in exile? What do I mean by that? Exile is anywhere outside the kingdom arena of the land. In most of our churches, Hebraic roots congregations, the land of Israel is a tourist attraction. It is the desired trip to make, but that's about it. We want to walk where Messiah walked. We want to see the significant sights, and then we want to come home. Let's understand that when Yah looks at the earth, his eyes are upon Israel, upon Jerusalem in particular. Everything else is peripheral. So no matter where else you live in the earth, no matter how big, significant, or important your country is, if it's not the land of Israel, and the land of Israel is not just that little sliver that's on the current world maps, it's a much larger area. If you're not there, you're in the peripheral vision. It's not that you're not important, but Yah has a system of importance, a fine-tuned gaze at that land. And eventually, ultimately, when the kingdom comes, that's where we're going to be. The bride, however, is oftentimes found in exile, where we are. So Messiah has sent his emissaries to come look for us. He said in the book of Acts chapter 1, remain in Jerusalem, then you'll go into Judea, and then into Samaria, and then into the uttermost parts of the earth. Ultimately, we are being looked for in the lands of exile. So, and for us Americans, the United States is not home. It's exile. Eventually, we're going to go home. More on that another time. Third question. Remember that Yitzhak was not allowed to leave the land, but rather a servant was sent in his behalf, in particular to go to Laban's house. Laban was not the head of the home yet at that point. Bethuel was. But a servant was sent to find a bride for Yitzhak. Again, a bride being found in exile. In this occasion, if a servant had been sent for Yaakov, would he have gone and brought back Leah, but not Rachel, or Rachel, but not Leah? In order for Yaakov to have both of these women, he had to go personally. Now, I'm not advocating dual marriage and all of that thing. We're not going down that trail. It was just that it was significantly important for at least Yaakov in this situation to redeem both. And there's a long history and a long story to be told there that I don't have time for today. The fourth question. Was it that Yaakov had to encounter Lavan, or the Lavan type of spirit that resided within himself, in order to realize this is a flaw in me and I need to be set free from what would have destroyed me otherwise? Let's play this out just for a moment for ourselves. There are times that we encounter people who have a negative personality trait, something that irritates us, aggravates us, and we think they're the problem. Look in the mirror. There are a lot of times that you will find that the very character trait or personality type that bothers you may actually reside within you, and Yah is just giving you a good picture of how you genuinely or truly may be. That's not tasty medicine, but it may apply. You might want to pray about that one. Okay, so let's go on and understand that even though he was imperfect, Yaakov is a Sadiq. What is a Sadiq? A Sadiq is, according to Hebrew, he is a person of elevated righteousness. He's not just born again. He's not just spiritually astute. He has developed the awareness of his spirit. He is discerning. He is walking in gifting. He has righteous influence on his community and environment. When a Sadiq leaves one area and moves to another area, there is then a emptiness, a void that is left where he used to be. So if you are a Sadiq, you have righteous influence over your community. When you move from that community to some other location, that righteous influence is not there. There's a void. There's a vacuum. It's going to be filled with something. That's why it's very important that you and I raise up righteous men and women to walk with us wherever it is that we are, so that if we leave, that righteous influence remains, at least in the lives of those that we raise up. If we're trying to carry the righteous load on our own shoulders and we're not sharing it among anyone else, it may cause us to look great by comparison to everyone else around us. But if we move, then the influence that we had is gone. Raise up people to walk with you, to continue your righteous influence even in your absence. So this is played out in the book of Matthew in chapter number 10. And listen to the words of Yeshua. He says in verse 11 through 14, "And to whatever city or village you enter, ask who is worthy in it, and stay there until you leave. And as you enter into a house, greet it. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is unworthy, let your peace return to you. And whoever does not receive you nor hear your words, when you leave that house or city, shake off the dust from your feet." Again, just re-emphasizing that we carry righteous influence with us wherever we go. It can remain or it can be picked up and taken away with us. Just another thought. So let's continue with an understanding that Yaakov is carrying two blessings at this point. The Brakah, which is the blessing of the father. It is carrying the Bekorah, the blessing of the firstborn, where he receives a double portion of the inheritance and where he carries the family priestly duties. Now he encounters the Most High at this place. I personally believe that this is the Temple Mount, because later he says, this is the gate to the heavens, and I didn't even know it. This is Bethel, the House of El. There's only one location on the face of the earth that qualifies for. That's the Temple Mount. We also see that he stands up a pillar and a stone, pours oil upon it, and declares this to be his house. And it signifies that this stone will be the cornerstone of a house built for the Most High. This is a prophetic picture of the stone of stumbling, Yeshua the Messiah, standing on the Temple Mount, having oil poured upon him and be declared the King of all the earth. I look forward to that picture taking place in its reality. And he is indeed the cornerstone of the house of the Most High. We see the picture of the stairway from heaven to earth. And we see the messengers, the Malachim of Yahweh, ascending and descending, a changing of the guard. As he's preparing to move from one location to the other, territorial guards are changed. But Yeshua says later on in the book of Yochanan or John, he says, you will see the angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man, signifying, I am that stairway upon whom the Father appears upon, and upon whose angels they change according to my command. You want to be under the authority of Yeshua. You want to be in that place and receive the Bekira. More about that tomorrow. Shalom.